So let me give you a brief preview of the presentation we'll be doing today at Brookings. This is on Chapter 3 of the World Economic Outlook that was released a couple of days ago in Washington. Chapter 3 is about manufacturing jobs, and more precisely the decline in manufacturing jobs and the implications it may have for productivity and income per capita growth and for income inequality. A key observation that motivates this analysis is that manufacturing seems to be fading as a source of jobs, both in advanced economies and in developing economies. In advanced economies, the share of manufacturing employment has been declining for several decades. In developing economies, instead, labor is primarily shifting from agriculture to services, bypassing the manufacturing sector. And there are two sets of concerns for the different groups of economies. For developing economies, the concern is that the bypassing of manufacturing may lead to slower income per capita growth and affect the possibilities of these economies to catch up with income levels of advanced economies. In the case of advanced countries, the concern is that since the sector typically provided well-paying jobs for relatively unskilled workers, the disappearance of manufacturing jobs may lead to an increase in income inequality. So in the chapter, we revisit the evidence giving rise to these concerns, and we find that actually the decline in manufacturing doesn't need to hurt growth of the prospects of income per capita growth in developing economies or hurt inequality. In particular, we find that some services can play a similar role to manufacturing. They show high levels and high growth rates of productivity comparable to the top performing manufacturing sectors. We also find evidence that many service sectors show evidence of unconditional convergence across countries. That means that productivity tends to grow faster in countries where the initial level is relatively low, providing an escalator of growth in the sector and for the economy as a whole. We also find that the movements of labor during the recent past from agriculture to services tended to boost aggregate productivity and income in developing countries. Now, there's a few challenges, and policies going forward need to ensure that the tradability of services keeps increasing and the skills of the workforce are aligned with the service sectors that are more dynamic and provide high levels of productivity. In terms of implications for inequality in advanced economies, the analysis in the chapter shows that labor income in manufacturing indeed is slightly higher on average than in the service sector, and it's also more evenly distributed. But the main driver of the increase in aggregate labor inequality that we have seen in some advanced countries is an increase in labor inequality within all sectors, rather than the effect of labor shifting from manufacturing to services. That doesn't imply that no workers are affected. Some workers are affected by the disappearance of manufacturing jobs, and in that sense, it's important that in those economies, policies are tailored towards facilitating the reskilling of the workers that lose jobs in manufacturing and reduce the cost of reallocation of across sectors of these workers. And given that for some workers this cost may be very high, there's also a need to improve safety nets and redistributive policies in general. So in a nutshell, the declining role of manufacturing doesn't need to hurt growth and income convergence or affect dramatically inequality, but it's important to have the right policies in place.